Hi everybody, it's Martin Twycross here with another live Q&A. So welcome to the live stream and welcome to all those who are watching it on the replay as well. So I do these once a month. These live streams are an opportunity for you to ask me any questions you like on mediumship, on development, on any other topic. So if you have any questions, you can start loading them up in the chat box. So the way I do it is I work through the questions that get asked in order. If you would like your question asked sooner, if you are short on time, want it asked sooner, you can do a super chat, which is if you look at the chat box at the bottom, you should see a $sign. If you're logged into YouTube, it should be there for you, and you can click on that and make a small donation. And any questions asked through super chat, or if you make a donation in super chat and tell me your questions there, I will dig it out and make sure it's the next one answered. So since the last live stream, I have added a number of videos to the channel. The most interesting one for most people, I'm sure, will be my sitting in the power meditation. It's a short version of my full meditation. The full meditation runs for about 30-40 minutes. This one is just knocked down into 15 minutes. So it's an ultra short version of it, but it's highly worth checking out. Several people have told me how much they enjoy it, so that's great. Also add another video as well on how to manage emotions in mediumship, which is a very important topic, especially for those of you doing readings. Highly recommend checking that one out too. I've added 2 talks as well that I did as part of Spiritualist Services, and they are a talk on the purpose of mediumship, which is very wide ranging. For anyone interested in mediumship, it's well worth checking out. And also a talk on change, which is quite appropriate as well, given how we find ourselves in the world. So, welcome to Dave, to Tyrone, to Anastasia, and I can see there's a question already in the chat box. So if you have questions, do put them in there for me. Also, don't forget as well that I do these classes, this class this evening without a charge. If you would like to donate, you're always more than welcome. There is a super chat available, as I mentioned earlier on. You can make a donation through super chat, and you can also donate through my PayPal me link. You'll find the PayPal me link pinned to the very top of the live stream, should you be interested in making a donation. All donations are gratefully received. If you want to buy me a coffee, that's always much appreciated. And thanks to all those who've made donations in the past. I really appreciate that. So yeah, so you can do that. What else did I need to tell you? If you've not subscribed to the channel, then do subscribe to my channel. Lots of good videos coming out. Lots of people have commented on the videos, and I've got recorded quite a few. I was on holiday actually last week, and I've got another 6 in the pipeline coming from holiday as well. So lots of videos coming through, which will be great. What else do I need to tell you? So yeah, also don't forget as well to check out my products that I have available. My videos, teaching videos, my pre-recorded courses, and my study program. The current course, as many of you will know, is the Better Private Readings online course with 3 classes into that. So if you are interested in doing that, then you can still come along for the final class, but you get recordings of all the previous classes anyway. So welcome to Franny and Madaleif. Lovely to see you here. So glad you can join. So we have a few questions building up, so I'm going to launch into it straight away for you. Franny, wow, you're watching me live. Wonderful. You can engage with me live. You just got to come to the live Q&A once a month. Or do my courses, of course. Okay, let's get started. So Tyrone, you got a question. After 15 years of using clairvoyance, have you any tips on solely connecting with spirit in a reading? Now, for me, clairvoyance is just a mechanism. Clairvoyance is the mechanism by which we see imagery within our heads. So I'm assuming you're maybe meaning psychic, possibly. You can clarify that for me. For me, as I say, clairvoyance is a tool we use both within mediumship and the psychic. And if you want to connect solely with spirit, then you need to place your attention solely with spirit. You need to keep out of the energy of your sitter. You need to keep out of the energy of the person in front of you. And that is almost impossible to do, to be frank, because when you're doing a sitting for somebody, there is always a degree of psychic connection. If you're doing it online, there's a lesser degree of psychic connection. If you do it in person, there's a stronger degree of psychic connection. I always say that where we place our focus determines what we get within a reading most of the time. But there will always be a point where someone speaks to you and psychically within their energy, you're getting information as well. So you can never do a purely 100% spirit reading unless you don't know who the recipient is, unless you literally have no recipient answering you up or no recipient in front of you. So some of the test sittings people do, they are done with the intent of being 100% spirit because there is no recipient. You're doing it for a target recipient who's not in the room with you, who you don't know who he is. So there is no psychic link. So we train people to stay with spirit by removing the psychic link. And the teacher then answers up on behalf of the sitter. So if I'm working with a group, I would maybe have one person face the wall. As teacher, I would get the audience to nod, shake their heads, don't know, yes, no, don't know. Person facing the wall makes the link. They have no connection whatsoever with the recipient answering them up. The teacher answers on behalf of the recipient. And that's how we do it. And that way, it means that there's less chance of being pulled into the energy of the recipient. And you're more likely to stay with spirit. Now, I do have a video that I highly recommend if you've not seen it, Tyrone. It's, is it spirit or is it psychic? I think that's the title it's called, and it's got a couple of signposts, one's pointing to spirit, one pointing psychic. Check that out on my channel. I will put a link to it after this live stream. I always put a link to all the different ones I mentioned. That one there, I spend maybe 10, 15 minutes going through how you know whether you're moving psychically or mediumistically. How do you know when it changes from one to the other? That will help you as well. So I hope that's given some clues, some tips. But basically, the simple answer is put your mind with spirit. Start with spirit. Start with a spirit link. Do not start psychically. If you start psychically, you may never get out of it. So hopefully that all makes sense. Great. Okay, next question. Anastasia, really enjoy your philosophies and video. Wonderful, thank you. Your motivation always seems so high. Do you ever feel the need to step away from your mediumship for longer periods of time? And this is a really interesting question because we have to be in the right place to do mediumship. Absolutely. I know at times in my life when I've lost loved ones or when I've had really stressful things happening, sometimes we may need to take a little break. Now, a little break for a working medium may be a month off or a couple of weeks off. If we're working every week, then having a little break can be valuable, absolutely. But there'll be times in your life when you're suffering through stress, emotionally, mental health challenges, that you will need to pull back. When you've had, if you're going through a trauma of whatever description, again, it's not always easy to work. I know if you lose a loved one really close to you, it can impact your ability to work. My former flat, it flooded way back in 2007. I had a huge flood in my flat. And that was I think on the Friday. And on the Sunday, I was booked to do a service. Now, I should have cancelled, but I didn't. And so you go to the Spiritualist Church service, you take the service, your life at home is in complete chaos because all your possessions are soaked and it's all just a complete disaster. And I should have been really there, but I went to the service and it's the only time ever I've been emotionally impacted when trying to do an address. I was trying to tell people what had happened. I was trying to explain to people that I'd lost a lot of the family photographs because they all got flooded. And that hits you emotionally. And I got caught up in the emotion. I had to sit down. Only time ever in my life I've had to stop doing an address. And the emotion of it all caught me out. But I was probably too emotional from the trauma of it all to work. But I worked and I shouldn't have done. So I learned then that if we need time away, we should take time away. Absolutely. I still had to then have a hymn or a quick song before I had to then start doing my demonstration. So I had to flip the energy, I had to get back in my power, I had to get regrounded, connected and work. And it still worked, my demonstration still worked. But really in that scenario, if you've got chaos like that going on in your life, if you've just lost somebody, if you've got whatever may be happening in your life, it's fine to cancel your bookings for a little while. Absolutely. You've got to protect your own energy, you've got to protect your own emotions and mental health. Absolutely. But how long is the longest? For example, with all the churches shutting down and everything shutting down over with the lockdown with COVID, it took a little while before people moved into online services and the like. So there was probably a period of a couple of months where I didn't work, maybe 2 months where I didn't do a demonstration, 2 or 3. And that was the longest I've been without working. And through the whole period as well, it was over a year before I did a physical in-person demonstration of mediumship, which is a very long time. It still works. It will always work. But sometimes those breaks are enforced upon us. Absolutely. So hopefully that answers your question. Hi, Clayton. Glad you could join us. Anastasia, do people who don't know any deceased people in the spirit world, for example, young people, have anyone who comes through in a reading, or do you just switch to a psychic reading? Now, for me, there's no point somebody booking a mediumistic reading if they have nobody they know in spirit, because you're going to bring through people they don't know. You're going to bring through people they haven't got a clue who they are. And if they really know nobody and nobody connects from spirit, then they may be challenging even getting a connection. Often there'll be relatives who in the spirit world who connect with mum or dad or grandma and grandma who've come forward for them, but they won't know nothing about them. So they will have to go away and take all the information, the evidence, and check it out with other people. That will happen, absolutely. But if they know nobody in the spirit world, it's going to be hard. If, say, for example, you're adopted and you knew nobody in the spirit world, then it gets very challenging because you don't necessarily have a mechanism by which you can check anything out. But having said that, sometimes people who don't know their loved ones in spirit, who don't have a mechanism for checking it out, the loved ones will come through repeatedly to give a body of evidence that, if you like, keeps coming back time and time again through different mediums that does check out. I know that happens. I know that in my own case, I never knew my own grandfather on my father's side. And when I got into spiritualism and mediumship, there's no one really to find out from to check any of the evidence with. All I could do was get his birth certificate, and so his death certificate, so I know his birthday, his passing day, and how he passed. That's all I know. But more information has come through from mediums to me in sittings that have built a bit more of a picture so that it can happen, and it will happen. But generally, if someone did not know anybody in the spirit world, I would suggest they don't really book a reading unless there's a specific reason behind it, because otherwise it's going to be hard for the medium working. And yes, in that scenario, you'd want to do a psychic sitting. But this is why I always check with the sitters, what do they want before we begin? Because before when the time booking it, I try and clarify, are you after a psychic reading or a mediumship reading? And if it's psychic, I don't do purely psychic readings. I know loads of mediums do. There's nothing wrong with it. But because I'm limited for time, my passion is mediumship, I prefer to do mediumship. But we're all different. So hopefully that helps. Good. Franny, your question. Can spirit come through during a picture reading? No sitting, just a picture of the passing. Now, I don't actually know what a picture reading is, what you mean by that. So are you talking about a picture of the person who's passed, but you're reading the picture of someone who's passed? Is that what you're meaning? I'm presuming it is. But anyway, I'll talk about it as if that is the case. So basically, you can do a reading from a photograph. If someone gives you a photograph, you can do a reading of a photo of someone who's passed. Absolutely. And can they come through from a photo? Yes, they can. Can you look at a photograph on Facebook that someone's uploaded and get a link with spirit? Well, you can, but it's not easy, because think about it. Why would spirit, if someone loads a picture of somebody on Facebook and 300 people are looking at it, it's a lot of effort you're asking someone's loved one to link to 300 people separately and bring information through when they may not even be very good mediums, or even worse, the sitter is not necessarily going to check out all the evidence to understand it anyway. So for me, photo readings on things like Facebook are a no-no. That's not a good way for you to learn to do mediumship for a multitude of readings. Secondly, it's really hard. The hardest readings are the readings when a sitter is not present, because there's less incentive for their loved one to come. If the sitter's in front of you, the loved one will come, absolutely. But if the sitter's not in front of you, why should their loved one come? It's a big ask. So even for experienced mediums, absent sitter is a challenging reading, even for experienced mediums. And where I've seen mediumship readings go wrong, vast majority have been absent sitter readings. So I don't recommend them unless you're an experienced medium anyway. Certainly isn't a beginner's tool. So I think that's what you're meaning. I hope it is what you're meaning. Yeah, picture of the person who passed. Great, yeah, wonderful. So yeah, they can come to you, but why should they? Why not just have person in a room with you to do the sitting, that's what you'd want. Absolutely. So I can see that, Dave, you did a super chat, which is much always appreciated. Thank you very much for that. And your question, interesting question that follows on from the one we were talking about before. When we take time away from practicing mediumship, is mediumship a perishable skill? No. What you unfold in your development, what you unfold to work with, you do not lose. However, like any skill, you can get out of practice a little bit. Like any skill, if you don't do it for a while and you feel you're a little bit rusty or rusty around the edges, but it doesn't take long to get back into it. You know, I went for whatever it was, 1 year and 3 months without demonstrating in public. And I was kind of wondering, is this going to be working really easily? And it just worked normally. Why wouldn't it? It just does. I know people who've had to take time off 6 months away from their mediumship. They come back to it. My wife, she didn't work during lockdown for 1 year and 3 months. She's also a medium. She won't mind me saying that, but she doesn't demonstrate online. She doesn't do online dems. So for her, it was 15 months before she worked. And of course, there's a bit of worry there, a bit of anxiety. Is it going to work? Have I lost the skills? Have I got all rusty? And no, it works. Whatever we've unfolded, whatever we've developed, you don't lose it. That's the important part to recognize. Once you've developed those abilities, you don't lose them. However, remember that mediumship is forever changing. Mediumship over time will constantly change. And I did a video about that called 7 Reasons Why Your Mediumship May Be Getting Worse. And a lot of the reasons it's not actually getting worse, it's just changing, but you're not adapting to the changes. So remember that as well. If it feels like you're going backwards, chances are you're on a plateau, or chances are it's developing, it's progressing, but you're not understanding what's happening. It is possible to go backwards if you don't put any effort in, and it is possible to go backwards if you leave it for several years and you're not really... Yeah, if you get too rusty with it or you lose your confidence with it, that's the key thing. It's mainly the confidence loss rather than the gifts perishing. It's not the gifts perishing, no. It's your confidence taking a dent or a knock. If you believe you can, you will, and if you believe you can't, you won't. So again, that fits part of it. For anyone interested as well who has confidence issues, I do have a course called The Confident Medium. There's 4 classes in that course. It's available on my website under the pre-recorded courses. And basically, that drills deep into all the causes of confidence, whether they're big picture, whether they're specific, whether it's an aspect of mediumship, or it's a whole of mediumship. And I use my skills as a therapist to work through it. So anyone with confidence issues, that's where I recommend you go. Absolutely. There's also a snippet of it called Confidence in Mediumship that I uploaded onto YouTube. So again, I'll link that when I do the links of all the things I mentioned. So if you want to get a flavor for that course, you can touch upon that there. Okay, so hopefully I've answered that question for you, Dave. So if anyone does want to use Super Chat, make a donation, or do PayPal, me donations, as I say, it's always very much appreciated. If you do a Super Chat donation, I will make sure your question is the next one answered. Let me come back up the list and see where we were. Robin, do you have an easy technique to switch from eyes closed to eyes open without losing a good connection? I get distracted. Simple answer, I do indeed. Always keep your eyes open, never shut them. By shutting them, you're creating that transition. You don't need your eyes shut. Mediumship works equally well with the eyes open or with the eyes shut. Beginners develop a habit of shutting their eyes and then open them, and shutting their eyes and then open them. And when they open them, they get a bit of a shock because you're getting, I can see things. So best to train from the beginning to work with your eyes open. Anybody in any of my classes, if you ever do a class, practical class with me, and you're in the room with me, if you shut your eyes, I will be on you and telling you to open your eyes and work with your eyes open. Because it's just a good skill to learn straight out the box. Worst case scenario is you end up always having to link with your eyes shut and work with your eyes shut. When you work with your eyes shut, there's no connection with an audience when you're doing a dem. When you work with your eyes shut, there's no connection with a sitter, neither. It doesn't look good. I once had a short sitting, a 15-20 minute sitting from a lady who did it for me with her eyes shut the whole time, and she never once asked me to answer a yes, no, or don't know. So she worked just a stream of words, supposedly bringing through my loved ones in spirit, couldn't understand a word of it, kept her eyes shut for the whole time. At the end of it, she opened her eyes and said, "How was that?" I said, "Couldn't understand a word of it." And she said to me, "Well, why didn't you say something?" I said, "Well, why didn't you open your eyes?" And you see that I'm going... I deliberately didn't say a word to her because she never asked, and I thought it'd be a very good teaching experience for her. Not sure if she enjoyed me doing that, but it's true. So if you work like that, you're going to end up with problems. I guarantee it. Eyes open. So hopefully that is the answer. Not the answer you want necessarily, Robin, but that is the answer. Jenny, I often get information in my head and I'm often unclear if it is me or spirit. How can I tell the difference? Simple. You need a sitter in front of you and you give the information to the sitter. If the sitter understands it and it fits the sitter, so it fits the communicator from the spirit world, that's mediumship. That's from spirit. If the sitter understands it, but it's about themselves or someone close around them, generally that's psychic. But if you have no sitter, you'll never know, and it will potentially be your imagination. Sometimes we give information and it doesn't fit the spirit world, it doesn't fit the sitter, and maybe then it's our own mind, it's our own imagination. But mediumship functions through your imagination. It feels like your imagination. Sometimes I'm working, I'm doing a demonstration, or I'm doing a sitting, and this stuff's pouring through me, and I'm thinking, God, my imagination is running riot today. This is crazy. This is not going to be taken. And I give it, and it's right. And you go, wow. It feels like your imagination, but it's not, because we train ourselves to quieten our mind through practices like sitting in the power. If you don't know what sitting in the power is, I recommend you check out my Sit in the Power playlist. There's 6 videos in there that go through it in a great deal of detail, plus the Sit in the Power meditation. So check that out if you don't know what Sit in the Power is. But Sit in the Power is the best tool for you learning to quieten down your mind, for you learning to shut your mind down so it does not interfere with your mediumship. If you've not learned to quieten your mind through the discipline of sitting for spirit, doing meditation to shut down the mind, quieten the mind, then there's a risk that your own mind will be forever jumping in. But if someone asks you a question during a sitting, your own mind will jump in. If you try and find information you cannot get, like spirit, give me a name, and you don't get a name, your own mind, your own subconscious mind will be helpful and say, Bill, Jane, and just throw a name in. And that's your own mind. And sometimes we feel our own mind coming in, but sometimes we don't. With experience, I kind of know that, is this my own mind? Is it spirit? Let's give it anyway. Well, it's not taken. No, probably my own mind. Right, I'll learn not to give that. Sometimes I get a piece of information, I'll say, if this is you, spirit, you better give me another way. And then I get more information and I know, okay, I'll give it. That's definitely not my own mind. But yeah, is it my own mind or is it spirit? Is a good challenge, absolutely. So the only acid test is do mediumship, do it in person, do it with a sitter. I have a video, how to practice mediumship, 10 tips. And the first one is you can't practice mediumship without someone in front of you, without someone listening to what you're saying, or if you're typing it, reading what you're saying and responding in real time. You need that. Absolutely. Dershia. After sitting in power, does some spirit always come forward to blend with me? What if I don't feel or sense anyone in the circle practice? So no, so sitting in the power has got nothing to do whatsoever with spirit coming to blend with you. You move to blend with the spirit world in general. We are not looking for communication. We are not looking for connections to individual spirits. No, that's mediumship, which is different from sitting in the power. Sitting in the power is an exercise where we make ourselves accessible to the spirit world. So check out my video, why you should sit. Sit in the power number 1, why you should sit for spirit. Sit in the power number 2 is how to sit for spirit, but check out number 1, which is why I explain why you should be doing it. But it's definitely not for communication. If you're trying to do communication with it, you're getting the wrong end of the stick, because that's not what it's about. It's just about a blend with spirit to make ourselves accessible. It's a blend with spirit to unfold the potentials within us, to create the conditions. And it's mind training for mediumship. That's what it is. So, when you're doing mediumship, when we're doing sitting in the power, it's passive energy. When sitting in the power, it's a meditation, it's passive. It's just the blend we're doing. When you're doing mediumship, you've got to get dead excited. You've got to get really super excited and you become a hyper version of yourself, hyperactive version of yourself. And we link to the spirit world. We make that link. It takes energy and power to link. You need power to do mediumship, and sitting in the power and other tools like that. Through doing mediumship repeatedly, you get some degree of power as well. But you need power and excitement and energy to connect to spirit. And that's when spirit comes forward. So don't try and do mediumship when you're sitting in the power. It won't work well. It won't help you. So I'm hoping that will help. So again, do check out my playlist series on sitting in the power. Sit in the power, 5 reasons it's not working is the first one is for beginners. Sit in the power, another 5 reasons is for more experienced. But I cover all those reasons that you shouldn't be doing it to link with your guides. You shouldn't be doing it to make a link, a connection with spirit. It won't help you in the long run. It's a distraction. And for some people, sitting the power to begin with is too early for them. If you've not developed enough psychic ability, if you've not actually done your experimenting, then it's not really the right meditation for you. It's not a total beginner's meditation, sitting the power. It's what I would call more of a late beginner's intermediate meditation. Absolutely. Okay, next question. Rebecca, does mediumship work better the healthier we are? I've read that in order to be a good medium, we should always eat cleanly, be exercising, etc. Good question. A lot of that, I believe, comes down to your mind. If you believe that you'll be able to do mediumship better when you're eating cleanly or exercising more, then to a degree that becomes the reality of your mind interfering with that. I know that even when I'm not feeling well, my mediumship works, and sometimes it works better, ironically. Sometimes if you're in pain, your mediumship will work. Whenever you're in pain and you work doing mediumship, you will not be aware of the pain. You'll come back at the end, absolutely. But at that moment in time, it will move away because you're moving into an altered state. So can you be overweight and do mediumship? Well, I was quite heavily overweight for the first, 14 years of my development, and it worked for me. Do I eat cleanly and wonderfully? I didn't used to know, and mediumship still worked for me. I know a wonderful story told by a couple of mediums who are tutors at the college, and they, just before a dem, literally just before a dem, they had a big fish and chip supper, and mediumship still works. I was at a course enjoying dinner and a glass of wine and really enjoying it, having main course, dessert, starter, the works. And one of the tutors there, Mavis Patilla, came up and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You're demonstrating in a moment." And I was like, "I can't, I'm on my second glass of wine and I've eaten a huge amount." He said, "Well, this will be a good test tonight to see how that affects you, Martin." So my mediumship still worked. It still worked. Why should it not? However, we can get a bit overconfident on the drink. So I definitely don't recommend ever doing mediumship when you've been drinking, unless a tutor forces you to do it. I would never willingly drink and do it unless someone was doing that, if that makes sense to you. Okay, so does it work better the healthier we are? Depends who you talk to. Depends which medium you talk to. At some stage, I will probably do a class or a video or something, a series all about mediumship and health, because there are so many issues with that. But generally, I know as well, I know a group of mediums who said, let's all go and do juicing and we'll be better mediums. I started doing some juicing and I felt dreadful, awful, worst I've ever felt in my life. And juicing is not what I need. My body is not conducive to having juicing. And everyone else was posting in this Facebook group or WhatsApp group, whatever it was, how wonderful it was, how better their mediumship was with juicing. And I was the complete opposite. It's like, I feel awful. So I packed it all in. So it depends on you as a person, and it depends on what your mind thinks will happen as well. I hope that answers the question. Next question. Okay, just started to attend the circle. Each time spirits I brought through have been taken by someone else in the circle rather than the person sitting for me. Why? How can we hone in on the sitter? So I don't know if you do this, but the first thing you need to do is ask for a communicator from the spirit world for the person in front of you. That's the first step, the most logical step. You know, whenever I ask anyone to work in a group, it's like always ask for someone who links for the person in front of you. Because otherwise, if you're open to anyone, you'll get anyone. If you're open to anyone, you'll get somebody for somebody else in the group. That's not what you want. If you're open to anyone, you might get someone for the tutor. Or if you're open to anyone, you might get somebody for somebody sitting paired with somebody else, and you'll never have a chance to give it to them. So generally that happens because we're not being specific enough and asking. So if someone sits in front of you, so you should not be trying to make a connection before the person sits in front of you that you're going to be working for. That's the other key. Don't start trying to link in early. Come on, spirit, can someone come and join me? Oh, great. I've got a nan here. Great. Oh, yeah, and she's got problems with her breathing. Great. I'm going to hold that until my turn to work. Then you're paired up with somebody and you're holding this nan who doesn't belong to them, and you start trying to work with it and it's not going to work. No. So you never link until it's time. So if I was in that scenario, someone pairs me up with somebody, okay, I'd sit down with them. Who's going to go first? Okay, I'm going to go first. Right. Okay, spirit, please can I have somebody who links to this sitter to come forward and work with me, preferably one. That's where I start, and that should work. So that's the simple technique to do it. There is no other technique than asking. but a lot of people don't ask. Tyrone, in regards to the question on reading photos, I've read photos, I get a link to spirit, but it's difficult to maintain and drops to a psychic reading. Maybe 80% correct. So as I say, it's not impossible to do. Absolutely, it's not. But the problem you've got is, unless you've got someone answering in real time, you don't know whether you're a spirit, you don't know whether you're working psychically, you don't know where you are, you don't know if it's your own mind. So it's, as I say, I know, having done numerous experiments with different mediums at different stages of development, that trying to work without a sitter present is the hardest by a long way. And I know with working mediums, a lot of working mediums don't do sittings, typed out or written out sittings for absent sitters because it's so challenging. So I don't recommend it, but can you do it? Yes. And will it work sometimes? Yes. And have I done it myself for someone absent? Yes. And does it work? Sometimes, yes. But there's much more likelihood for things to go wrong, and you don't have the real-time feedback to learn what's going wrong and correct it. That's why I don't recommend it, generally, until you're highly experienced and you want to push yourself. Anastasia, is it easy or difficult for deceased loved ones to give us physical signs? Butterflies, coins, lights, flickering, etc. Now, we always get one or two questions that can start to become a little controversial. And this is one area that it can. Now, I know a lot of people who believe everything that happens in their life is spirit. Oh my God, there's a white feather. Go and shake your pillow. Oh, there's several more white feathers. You know, they fall out your pillow and your duvet. Oh my God, look, there's a robin. There's a robin, that's my loved one from spirit. No. Robins are very tame birds, and that robin is generally around most of the time if you kept your eyes open for it. Now, I hate to spoil anyone's view of spirit. Occasionally, something really odd happens, like a butterfly will appear completely out of season and be very tame and come and sit on you. That, yes, it could be a sign. Or a bird can literally come and sit on you. That would never happen. That can be a sign. Lights flickering, it could be dodgy electrics, but it could also be spirit as well. How easy or difficult is it for them to do? You have to ask spirit that. I can't answer that question for them. But what I do say is a heck of a lot of things are not spirit. I've got a scientific background first. So I always start with the logic, the science first. People would tell me I've got a spirit in my house. I'd go around and they'd say, go in that room. It's freezing cold. I'd go in the room and I'd go, yeah, it is cold. It's A, it's winter. B, it's got a flat roof. C, it's got two external walls. If you look at the complete layout of your entire house, it is always going to be the coldest room, by definition. And then let's go and touch the radiator. Oh, this radiator's got an air blockage and it's not as hot. There's your answer. Is it spirit? No. It's just... So what I'm trying to say is there's often rational, logical explanations for everything if we look at them first. But once we've ruled out the logical, the rational, then is there more to it? For example, I don't get carried away with orbs and people, oh, look, my God, there's an orb in the picture, it's my loved one. No, if it's going to be your loved one, say, please, can I have the orb appear over that person's head? And if this is you, can you then move it onto the right-hand side? And spirit will do what you're asking them to do. And you'll see an intelligence. So that's important to recognize. So, yeah. How easy is it to do? It depends. If they were an electrician in a former life, maybe they can play with your electrics. But if they weren't very good with technology, maybe they can't. I don't know. And can deceased loved ones interfere, help in our lives? Some mediums say yes, others say no. Spirit cannot, there's an unwritten rule that spirit cannot interfere here. It's our journey. It's our free will. It's, you know, we're here to live our own lives. We're here to make the decisions we need. All of that is our own doing. Absolutely. So spirit aren't allowed to do things for us. There's very rare occasions when spirit may interfere, and generally in life or death situations. Harry Edwards spoke about in one of his books how he stepped off a tram not looking at what he was doing, and he literally was in the line of a truck or a tram coming bearing down on him, and he felt himself moved out the way of it. That is life or death, where he, if you like, its spirit intervened in some way. I was driving down the motorway, and I was coming off the motorway on the inside of a big, huge articulated lorry, or a big trailer, I think you call it in the States. One of those with all the big wheels, huge truck. And in my head, I just felt brake. So I quickly glanced in the mirror and hit the brakes, and there was a blowout from the lorry in front of me. And I thought, well, a blowout's no big deal. But then I read up about it, and lorry blowouts, because of the high pressure of the tires, can be very dangerous, and they can cause serious damage or even kill people. So, you know, spirit can somehow connect with us and help us in times of crisis. But generally in our day-to-day lives, not easily, no. But if we go for a reading with a medium, they can come forward with advice, guidance, absolutely. We can feel inspiration from them a little bit as well, but it's our choice what we do with it. We have free will, we have choice. That's the key thing. Hopefully that answers your question. Does spirit only come around when their loved one is around you? I have spirit call my name at night and I don't recognize the voice. Now, again, this is another question that some of you may not like my answer. Spirit, the thing is, it doesn't make sense for any spirit to come around you unless either A, they know you, or B, they want to get through to their loved one. Spirits will not come to you at night if there's no one for them to connect with. So, you know, Joe Bloggs will not come to me at night to connect with his son or his daughter because there's no reading taking place. There's no demonstration taking place. So that's not going to happen. Then the thing is, unless you've developed clairaudience, you're unlikely to hear spirit speaking to you in that way easily. So sometimes people tell me, oh, I hear my name called. And I sometimes think I hear my name called, but it's not. It's just that it's something to do with our mind. So spirit generally won't come to be around you. I say generally, 98% of cases. 2% maybe you need to be in development and you're not, and spirit do badger you at times. But it could be your own loved ones. That's the only thing it can be, is your own loved ones. But think about it. Tell them the rules. Tell them the discipline. You're only allowed to come to me at this time, not other times. And if spirit do not follow the rules, it's not spirit. If you set strict boundaries, strict instructions for spirit, they will follow them. Absolutely. They don't misbehave. If I tell spirit, I don't want you to come to me at night in bed, they won't. Never do. In fact, I don't even have to tell them that, they don't anyway for me. So you've got to do that. You've got to set these strict boundaries. And then if it happens, chances are it's nothing to do with spirit. For example, in the in-between stage of sleep and awake, we can get hallucinations of imagery and hallucinations of sound. And that's part of the natural sleep process. But it feels like it could be spirit, but it's not. You can imagine seeing somebody in your room, but it's not. It's a projection from your mind in that in-between state. So when I'm a trained hypnotherapist, when we're taking people in and out of the hypnotic state, which is an altered state, like mediumship is an altered state, like moving into sleep is an altered state. People can have hallucinations and it's not real. It's a creation of your mind. So that's hearing and seeing things can often be hallucinatory. So set clear boundaries, set clear instructions, and if spirit don't follow it, it's not spirit. It's probably something different. I hope that makes sense. Hope that answers the question for you. Rebecca, are some clairs better? Twice I've had messages from mediums who say they work mainly with feeling, and they've described my dad in spirit, yet they have said they feel it is a female energy. Well, there's several things within your question. Are some clairs better? Yes and no. Clairs unfold and develop for the point where you are in your own development. So if you're working a lot with imagery, it's because that's where you are in your development. If you're working a lot with feeling, it's because that's where you are in your development. However, images, if they cannot be interpreted, are no good to you. Feelings are better in general for me, but someone could show me a name as an image. You can't get a name as a feeling. So feeling is no good for a name. If I want to get how somebody passed, feeling is going to work pretty well for me, unless I can see it written out. Clairknowing is ideal because clairknow, you just know it. Clairaudience is the best if you can develop true clairaudience, because spirit just talk to you and tell you everything that's devastatingly accurate. Go check out the Gordon Higginson website, gordonhigginson.co.uk. And I've uploaded onto there lots of articles about Gordon and newspaper reports of his mediumship. It's just devastatingly accurate. because he just heard and he repeated what he heard. He got the first name, he got the surname, he got the street name, he got the house number, he got the friends of the family, he got all the people connected in the family, all the people connected here. And the links are so powerful. And occasionally he'd say something that wasn't quite right because he'd misheard it. There was something wasn't quite right. He might have heard Ashcroft Road and it was Ashford Road, but he didn't hear it just right. But I would love to have that problem, to be quite frank, because, yeah. So are some clairs better? Yes, depending for different things. But the aspect of feeling somebody is female, yet they turn out to be male. Now, some women have a very strong masculine energy. Some men have a very soft feminine energy. You can't always go from the feeling alone. We want an image as well to go with it. So, but that happens. It shouldn't happen too often, though. Spirit won't come forward and pretend to be a woman when they're a man. They won't do that. It doesn't make any sense. There's no logic in it. But what's happening is the energy the person's feeling, they are translating, if you like, into a feminine energy. So that's why clairs added together can help. I'm feeling a feminine energy. I get a glimpse of somebody, it's a woman. I see their shoes, it's a woman. I know the feeling is it's feminine, it's female. So the more the clairs we can pull together, the better it works. So having all the clairs function together is the reality. Just like me talking to you now, I'm looking at the camera, using my eyes. I'm looking at your questions, using my eyes. I'm speaking, using my voice. And I'm using lots of different things. I'm processing with my mind and I'm feeling things. But feeling is lessened at this moment in time. So we all work naturally, routinely, all the time through all the clairs. Mediumship is no different, really. It never functions in total isolation. But I go off topic, so let me continue. So just a quick reminder then, if you don't know anything about my videos, I do have a series of 24 videos. You can see them all there on the screen. Mediumship classes 1 to 12, plus another 12 special topics. I also offer a study program based upon those videos. There's 3 modules that form the main program, modules 1 to 3, and there's a special module covering healing, inspiration, and trance. I highly recommend the study program if you want the most detail in my teachings. That's where you'll get it. I also have a number of courses that supplement the study program and the videos, and you can see the titles there. There's pretty much a course to cover almost everything at the moment. The current course, as I said, is on readings, better private readings. The next one will be on platform mediumship, and that will launch in a couple of months' time. So do check out all of those if you're interested. So, if you've joined the stream now at this point in time, if you would like to get a question answered, there is a quick way of doing it, and that is through using Super Chat, which is the $1 at the bottom of the chat box. You can do that, and I will answer your question next. Otherwise, I just work through them one at a time, and fingers crossed I'll get through them all. If you'd like to make a PayPal donation as well, you can. That doesn't get your question answered any quickly because I don't have access to the PayPal account. I see it after the event, but any donations are always welcome because, again, if you'd like to buy me a coffee to say thank you, that's always appreciated. Okay, let's keep going with all these questions. Let me pop out my chat and I can see more of it, actually. That would be much better, wouldn't it? There you go. That's better. Where was I? Let's see where we got to. Anastasia, do you focus a lot of work and communicating with your guides in daily life, or do you primarily work with spirit? So for me, the idea of using your guides for your daily life doesn't make sense. The people I hear about who drive to the mall and they're asking their guides to save them a parking space, they're asking their guides to make the traffic run smoothly. No, doesn't make sense. How often do I work with my guides? I work with my guides whenever I'm doing trance. Obviously, in trance, I go into a trance and my guides speak through me. Generally, it has to be recorded for me to hear it or transcribed for me to hear it. Occasionally, I may do some inspirational speaking or writing where I'm working with my guides. When I'm sitting in the power, occasionally I may feel the guides draw close to me. May not, but it's not very often actually, to be honest. If I have a question for the guides and I want guidance on anything, I'll send the thoughts. When I'm sitting in the power, I'll then at the end invite my guides to come close or listen, and then I'll put the question to them, and then I just leave it. And more often than not, it'll be a day or 2 or 3 later that inspiration starts to come in my mind when I'm least expecting it. When I'm driving in a semi-daydream state, or if I'm having a shower, or if I'm doing the dishes, a thought will come in. Okay, that answers that question then. So I don't work with my guides on a weekly basis, no. I don't. Every day I don't seek to create something with my guides. But if I'm working doing platform work or readings, yes, I ask my guides to help with the process, absolutely. But that's different. That's different. But in terms of looking for communication with them guides, a lot of people do that, and it's a bit unnecessary, to be honest. Your guides are not here to live your life for you. You've got your own life to lead. Your guides are there to support you on your spiritual journey with your spiritual work. That's their real aim. At some stage, I will do a course on guides, and it may not be as fluffy or as pink and glittery as some people may want it to be. But I kind of tell it like it is in a down-to-earth practical approach, which is probably what you expect of me by now. Any of you who've watched any of my videos will know that I don't like fluff. I don't like, making things that they're not. I don't do archangels. I don't do ascended masters. I don't do extraterrestrials or Pleiadians or anything like that. I keep it real and simple. And that, for me, we don't need any of that. But if that's your bag, that's fine. But it's not what resonates for me. Okay, next question. Sometimes I'll come up blank, then ask my guides and the info starts to flow. How can I provide more tools for my guides to use me as a vessel? I'd love to hear songs as I'm a big listener of music. Now, the thing is, right, your guides aren't actually giving you the information. Remember that. The information comes from the spirit world. Your guides only facilitate the process. That's my belief. Old school belief was guides give information. My current way of thinking is guides help with the process, help coach the communicator, help to create the conditions needed. But ultimately, most of the work falls upon these shoulders, our shoulders. Guides can't really do too much for us. If I'm doing a demonstration or I'm doing a reading and it's not working well, I will send the thoughts to the guides. Guys, it doesn't seem to be working as well as I like. Is there anything you can change at your end to make this work better? Or can you inspire me to change my way of working to make it better? And then I may receive inspiration, or it just may start to sort itself out. It may not. And so yeah, but I don't personally believe the information comes from the guides. And the tools we provide spirit are the tools we provide the spirit world. So in my course, Getting Better Evidence, I go through loads of different scenarios, loads of different things we can do to make our mediumship better, to get better evidence, to hone things in. Now, if you're interested in songs, then what you do with that is you learn to look at songs closely. You learn to look at song lyrics. You take an interest in songs. And then there's techniques and tools we can use for developing that. We play a song in a circle. What you do is you get a group of people together in a circle or a group. You get each person to work at a time. This is your song. Now make a link where this song somehow is appropriate. Certain lyrics of the song may pull out for you. The overall story of the song may be appropriate, or one aspect of it may fit somebody. But then you're making a link, bringing forward a spirit communicator and looking for where that fits and make it and understanding how it works. That's how we train it. Similarly, you can work with it psychically as well. With a sitter, you can have a song, listen to the song, and have a sitter in front of you, and then use different aspects of the song. There's also a mind mapping technique we can use where we mind map any topic into lots of different things, and then we can work psychically with it, and we can use that with mediumship. These are all different techniques and tools we use, but we have to learn to develop these tools ourselves. That then makes it accessible to the spirit world. So if you're interested in songs, look at the songs carefully. Try and bring it into your work when you're doing a practice sitting if you can. But if you can have a tutor who helps guide you through that, it's going to be a lot more easy. Carol, thank you for the live. Martin, you're very welcome. My pleasure. Okay, moving on. Miss Silver, your understanding of why we get a run of similar spirits and readings. Example, 3 or 4 readings in a row all pass quickly from suicides, or fathers who were all mechanics. So sometimes we develop, this question has multiple different angles, so I'm going to try and answer it quickly. This is not necessarily what you're asking about, but sometimes we work within our own experience. I know I do. I know if I've known people, it's very easy for me to work with people who are similar to that from spirit. Very, very easy. It naturally happens that what we know is what applies. So then I don't use the word rut. We get in a rut. It's like, but sometimes we get in a lane where we're working a lot with mothers, or we're working a lot with dads who were mechanics, or we're working a lot with men who were good with their hands. You know, that sometimes happens naturally. Then another time we may get a tragic passing and work well with it, and then we get a few in a row. In that scenario with the tragic passing, I believe you do it well, you get a reputation in the spirit world. He's good at bringing through traumatic passings. If you pass through a suicide, he'll work really well with you, or she will work with you in a very compassionate way and really do you proud. So we get a bit of a reputation sometimes in the spirit world that they will work with us for that reason. Now, in my talk, Mediums Ambassadors for Spirit, full-length talk that I've got on YouTube, I do talk about what spirit are looking for from their mediums with that. And I talk about those scenarios and examples within it as well. So if you've not seen that talk, it runs for about an hour. I highly recommend it. Mediums Ambassadors for Spirit. So yeah, and once we've had some recent experience of something, it's very easy the next time we work, because that's in our energy. It's very easy to work again with it. So sometimes I do a demonstration, and the next demonstration I do, it's like, God, these are the same links that I gave last time. And they're not. Last time I worked with a gentleman who had dementia. Now I've got another man who's got dementia. Why has it happened? It's happened because, if you like, it's uppermost in my subconscious mind that we did that last time. We worked well with it. Or maybe spirit have said, yeah, you worked really well with that last time. You've got the same scenario, go along and work with him, and he will be open to it. So it's easier for us to work with scenarios we are open to, absolutely. So the more you can open your mind to different scenarios, the better you'll be as a medium. If you cannot imagine somebody passing in a tragic condition, tragic accident, if you can't imagine somebody passing in a fishing boat accident at sea, then you're unlikely to get that. But if you've seen something on TV and, wow, he passed like that, okay, and you remember that and add that, if you like, to your mental storehouse of passing condition. Wow, I didn't think of that, yeah. Or somebody was getting out of a helicopter and they were hit by the blades, and yeah, all the things you've got in your mind to go from, the more you know about, the easier it will be. So hopefully that helps. So Rebecca, when you first started developing, was there a defining moment for you that made you think this spirit stuff is definitely real? So when I came to spiritualism, there is an address on my channel called About My Story, address on my story. Check that out if you want to hear the story. But I came to a spiritualist church for the very first time. And the first time my mum came through, I came back the very next day, and my granddad came through. Within 24 hours, I'd had excellent evidence that of the reality of spirit. But then we start developing ourselves. And at what point do we determine that, hey, we're a medium, and there's stuff that we think is our imagination is real? For different people, it will happen at different stages. Sometimes when we give something we can't possibly know, and someone takes it and you go, wow, that's good. But there was no for me, there was no singular moment. It was just a cumulative build-up of information that got me to the point that, hey, I am a medium. And over time, hey, if I work hard with this, I'm actually a pretty good medium. At least the evidence seems to suggest that the quality can be there, provided we work at it. So for me, there was nothing that was defining as such. No defining moment. I was not one of these people who saw who saw spirit as a child. Every book I read, the medium says, oh, and I was open to the spirit world as a child. I had imaginary children I played with, etc., etc., etc. None of that for me. No spirit in my life until I was, well, no evidence or suggestion of spirit until I was an adult, really. So there you go. If that's how you are, good. But I think there's almost a fashion to say you saw spirit as a child. That never happened for me, so I don't do it. But I do wonder if it's all real, though. That's the question I have to ask. But there you go. That's my skeptical mind, my analytical mind. There you go. Next question. Mariana, hi, I'm from Portugal. I'm aware I'm a medium since I was a child. Always felt drawn to help others. Thing is, I have other goals in life, but something always occurs and brings me back to mediumship. Why? I cannot explain why. I can't. If you're always brought back to mediumship and you're drawn to it, go with it. But, you know, we all have a busy life. We have to do mediumship at a time that is right for us. Mediumship unfolds best when the conditions are right. With right conditions, we create that through Sit in the Power, right timing. If you're a busy mum with toddlers, underage children under the age of 5, 2 or 3 children, you're going to be pretty busy. You doing mediumship all the time is not going to work. You've got other things in your life. You've got to go with it. So, you know, sometimes we have to wait until our lives change to enable us to focus upon it. It's good you know it's there, but ultimately we have to put the time and effort in, time, effort, development, motivation to make it work. I will have a video coming out talking about all these topics because I recorded quite a few recently, and one of them is about how we develop mediumship, another one is how long it takes, etc. So, yeah, but why does something always bring you back to mediumship? All I can suggest is you have to work with it to figure out the why. The why is for you to figure out, not for anybody else to tell you. So that's important to recognize as well. Okay, next question. How do you know personally you've dropped down to psychic level? Does it feel different? Mediums at church 9 out of 10, in my opinion, have given a 90% psychic reading and fortune telling. Well, quite simply, is it communication about the spirit communicator? Are you giving information about them in the spirit world? If you are, then that's spirit. Are you talking about scenarios around the sitter? And are you talking about information that relates to the life of the sitter? If it's relating to the life of the sitter or scenarios around the sitter, it could be psychic. Sometimes spirit can communicate that, obviously, as well. But a lot of the time, that happens psychic. If there's no information about spirit at all, I'm coming to you and I've got your mum, and your mum's telling me that this is happening in your life. Oh, and I can see from your energy that you've been ever so stressed. Most of that is just psychic. And most of it's just crap, but there you go. I shouldn't say that. Most of it's psychic. I shall stop what I'm doing and not say that. So, yeah. And if you think 90% of it is psychic reading and fortune telling, yeah. Spirit don't tell people's futures. Again, I've got a video on that. Can mediums see your future? The answer is no. All we can see is the current, the present, the past, and a bit of minor degree of extrapolation from what we're seeing. And a lot of mediums tell people their future, and it's all complete rubbish. I do not recommend you ever try and predict the future. Not good. I know multiple mediums, big name mediums, who do predictions. I am the person who writes down their predictions and shows that most of them are crap. Shows that most of them are inaccurate. And those mediums, they take them off their website when they're not right. And they leave the ones up that they got right. But you could get half of it right through, 50% of it you can get right through guesswork. So let's get some really accurate predictions if we're going to predict. But so much of it is just fluff. And I can't be doing with fluff, as you know. So there you go. I shall get off my high horse again. So how do you know you drop down to the psychic level yourself? It's where your focus is. As I said earlier on in one of the questions, to stay with spirit, you place your focus with spirit. You do not get into the energy of the sitter. You try not to go there. Check out my video, is it psychic or is it spirit? I talk about how you know when you've moved from one to the other. You can have changes of speed, changes of tempo, changes in energy. It feels different. There's an aspect that's different, but the vast majority of where you are is where you've placed your mind. So when I'm working with spirit and I've got a sitter in front of me or an audience in front of me, it's like the traffic policeman. I don't want nothing from my sitter or my audience, and I want it all from the spirit world. So spirit, you can give it to me, no problem, but I don't want anything coming forward from there because that would be psychic. When the person's answering me up and say, oh yes, that's my loved one, and I'm talking about things and they're answering me up, in their voice and their energy is psychic information, which we cannot really stop working with. But in a demonstration, we should be minimizing the psychic, pushing it down to stay with spirit, because demonstrations of mediumship are generally about spirit communication. So hopefully that helps. And it is disappointing, absolutely. It really irritates me when I see mediums work pretending to do mediumship. And I say that deliberately because I've seen a lot of mediums pretend it's from spirit, and there's no spirit there. I saw a demonstration in a theatre by 2 well-known mediums, and there wasn't a spirit link made. I went away disappointed, really. Very disappointed. Almost very, very unhappy, because everyone was saying how wonderful it was, and it wasn't. For me, I didn't actually believe either of them actually made a link to the spirit world at all, but there you go. That's me. And I just felt so sad for spirit. I actually felt I would like to have got on that platform and made at least one decent spirit link, because that's, you know, when it's just rubbish that anyone can take, it's not good. I'll shut up. Clara, how do I know I have a link my own loved one from spirit? How to know I'm not imagining? I refer you to another one of my videos on YouTube, kind of medium link with their own, and a number of reasons why it's hard. The problem is we can feel our loved ones around us. Yes. We can sense our loved ones close to us. Yes. But some of that can be wishful thinking. Absolutely. If I want to think of my mum, I'd like to hope my mum will come, but if she doesn't, I will sense mum's energy created through my knowledge of mum. How do I know mum is communicating with me? I don't. And that's the problem you have. When I'm working with a sitter in front of me and I'm bringing their mum through and I'm giving loads of information that I don't know about how she passed, about her family, about her life, yeah, all of it's taken. Then I know that it's not my own head, my own mind, my own needs. And I give a message that comes from mum. I know nothing about their lives and say, yeah, that's really appropriate right now. Yes, I have my validation and verification of what I'm getting is accurate. When my own parents come to me, or my own loved ones in spirit come to me, and I'm getting information coming up, I can't differentiate whether that's my own wishful thinking, whether it's my own mind putting words in my mind like what I know they would say, how they would think. I can't demonstrate it's real. So with our own loved ones, the best we can do is just sense their presence, feel their love, and know they're around us. But it's very, very hard to have really accurate communication like we can for other people. That's the important part. So I hope that helps you, and I hope it isn't too disappointing to know that. Okay, Omar, hello from Canada. During my days, I spent a few minutes here and there, moving my attention to the spirit world. I feel them. Are these little meditations of spirit, feeling spirit helpful? So during the day, you spend a few minutes where you sense there's the spirit world around. Are they helpful? Only you can decide if they're helpful to you. Would I do it? No. And I'll tell you for why I wouldn't do it. Because there's no need. For me to know the spirit world is around, I know it. Because whenever I work with the spirit world, they're there. Whenever I sit in the power, I feel it. Whenever I invite spirit to draw close to me, whether that's a guide, they do. If I genuinely sat and sat in the power, and then at the end of it, before I finished, invited my loved ones to be close, you'd feel it. You sense it. You can't communicate necessarily, but you can feel a closeness of presence. So all of that I know. So therefore I don't, during my daily life, need to keep checking in to see are they still there. I know they will always be there. Even like my wife, if you've not worked for 15 months, you open up and they're there. It will always be there. So is it helpful? Only you can decide for you. Would I do it? I personally wouldn't, because I do enough work with spirit anyway. When I work with them, perfect. But if I'm going to work with them, I want a reason for working with them. If I'm going to work with them, I'm either sitting for my development, I'm either doing a demonstration, or doing a reading, or doing healing where I'm linking with the spirit world, or I'm doing trance. There's a purpose behind it generally. And that's what I'd recommend you do. To me, it doesn't make any sense just to link with spirit for the sake of it, because it's not really serving that big of a purpose. I'd much rather you were linking to give someone a reading, or linking to do healing, or linking to do inspirational work with your own guides and helpers. That would be better. But as I say, only you can choose whether it works for you. Andrew, how to know if an image given by a communicator relates to their life, specifically a shared memory with the sitter or proof they're around the sitter in daily life. I find this hard to feel at times. The problem with imagery is you have to interpret it. To interpret imagery, you have to be able to feel into it. And it needs a degree of developed clairsentience. Also, when we get an image, we need to sense. So if you flash me an image of a person, is this you, spirit? Yes. Okay, good. That's who it is. I need to know, so I'm going to be questioning it and probing to get an answer. You can't just take an image and describe it. Oh, I'm seeing an image of a woods. I'm seeing an image of a lake with some trees and a woods. There you go. No, hang on. Is this your memory spirit? Yes. I like going there. I loved it. Okay, right, we're working with it. Or you're seeing that. Is it possibly you're picking it up psychically from the sitter's energy? It's what they love to do. Or spirit wants them to do more of it. They love doing it, but they've not been doing it of late. You've got to feel into it, and that's the hard part. How can I teach you to feel into it? Only through experience and working it. There is no shortcut, no easy answer, other than you have to develop and unfold your gifts. And as you do so, generally we start with clairvoyance, imagery, and then we bring in clairsentience, which fits with the clairvoyance to help you interpret the imagery. That's what we're looking for. Or a clairknowing, which is just where you know what it means. But it also comes with experience as well. So, but send the thoughts to spirit. If it doesn't relate to your life, spirit, send the thoughts. And do you get a feeling back of it? Yes or no? Where does it fit? You know, is this a shared memory with the sitter? They tend to have a different feeling to them. You know, or if this sitter can't take any of it with spirit, but they said, well, actually, I was doing that just yesterday. There's your answer. The answer is they were around you yesterday. But the only way you can work out how it is by working with the evidence and seeing what the feedback and the response in real time from the sitter is. That's the important thing to recognize. Because we can't always interpret 100% accurately. No matter how good a medium you are, it's not always possible to interpret. But we can try. Absolutely. Yeah. Rebecca, I thought my dad would be having a laugh about being described as having a female energy too. I probably was. Yes. Tyrone, the Gordon Higginson videos website is brilliant. Thank you for all you do for mediumship. You're my main source for straightforward teachings. Glad to know that, Tyrone. And if you've not checked out the Gordon Higginson videos on the Gordon Higginson tribute site, which I also maintain, and the Gordon Higginson YouTube and Facebook sites, there's lots there. It's sadly, I find it challenging to fit around all my other things because there's so much more I could add to it if only I get time. There's so much more to do, but you know, what we can keep putting stuff out there that helps people. And I'm glad you find my videos helpful, glad you find my teachings helpful. And if you are finding what I'm doing helpful and you do want to make a donation, you're always more than welcome. As I say, you can use the super chat, which is the $ at the bottom of your chat box. And you can also use a PayPal link, my PayPal me link, which you can find at the very top of the chat box pinned. All donations are gratefully received. I know I do this for free, but if you do want to buy me a coffee and as a thank you, always appreciated. Okay, next question. Rebecca, you agree with Tyrone? Wonderful. Let's have a quick drink of water. Yeah. So we should all be open to all different types of passing. Absolutely. And the more experience you get, the more experience you get of different passes when you're working, the easier it gets over time, because we kind of build, if you like, that bank in our minds of scenarios. That's what helps us. So I an empath. Thank you for this wonderful reply. Mediumship won't let me go either. I've just joined a new church and hope to develop the necessary discipline to bloom spiritually. I hope so. And mediumship takes discipline, takes commitment, takes showing up. It's the saying, many are called, but few are chosen. But the way I interpret that saying is that many are called to it, but won't stay the course because it needs the dedication, the commitment, and the effort. And it's your soul that chooses it, really. You've got to choose to do it. Okay, next question. I've often heard mediums say they work off the sitter's voice. So I'm guessing this then is because they're working psychically. Not necessarily, no. It depends. Yeah, the thing is, when a medium says that, you've got to ask the medium what do they mean by that, because each medium can mean something different. But I will always say, please answer me up because I'd like to hear your voice. I need to hear your voice, and I'll tell you for why. Because if I'm working in an audience full of people and I've got a spirit communicating coming through, and I don't know where in the room I am, and we want someone to take the link, we want to land the link, get the link placed, someone starts speaking to me. If it's the wrong person, spirit starts to pull away or doesn't get excited. But when the right person, somebody else says, well, I can take all of this as well, and they start talking to me, and I feel this rush of excitement from the spirit person, spirit communicator. It's their loved one. Yes, that's them. And when the voice was spoken and I heard that voice, they responded to it. It's not that they're hearing the voice, it's just that they're aware their loved one is talking to me. So that's what is meant by, that's what I say, why I need to hear your voice. I also need to hear people speak up as well, because mediumship is a three-way thing. Mediumship is the medium in the middle, the person coming forward from spirit, and the recipient as well. And especially if it's in a public domain like a church or a centre or a theatre, everybody else needs to hear what is taking place. So if the person nods at you and shakes their head, nobody else can follow what's happening. So I'll say, please do speak up to me. And if then I might say they're nodding very loudly, is that a yes? Yes. But it's nice that that happens, because it brings everybody in. And mediumship is fueled by power. Power comes from two sources, primarily you as the medium and the power from the audience who have an interest in it. Also, if you're in a class, power also comes from your teacher, probably more so in the early stages of development, beginner development, early stages. The teacher gives power to the student to help it to work. But generally, we need that power. So the more I can get people engaged, the more power I get. The more I can get people to follow what's going on and have an interest in it, the more power I get. If I let people just nod at me, shake their heads and not answer me up, the power drops and becomes flatter. So mediumship is your power plus the additional block you get from the interest of the audience. So the more you've got, the better your mediumship is generally. So, hey, keep them interested and it will work. Okay, next question. HK Crump, while some, myself included, wait until my turn, is it more advanced work to have them in the queue? I'm not really sure what you mean by your question. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you can put a clarifying comment in for me, that would be really helpful, because I don't really understand what you mean. So when you talk about waiting your turn, is, you know, I'm not, if you clarify it for me, that would help, because I've got no idea what the question means. And I can't answer a question I don't understand it, sadly. So let me move to the next one. I wondered if you're happy to share how your family and friends responded to you turning to mediumship. So basically, I won't go into all of my family and all my friends in any great detail. But what I will say is, if we look at when we start doing mediumship, some people will be open to it and some people will go along with it. Some people may be uncomfortable with it and not like it. Some people may be actively against it. You kind of get this whole spectrum from people who think that's great, brilliant, to other people who are like, no, that's the devil's work. You can't do that. And I want to stop you doing that. And everything in between. Some people just think that you've gone a little bit odd. Some people get surprised by the change, especially for someone like me, because I'm quite a down-to-earth person. I've got a scientific background. I've got a degree in physics. So not known for flights of fancy. Quite grounded person, quite practical and down-to-earth. When I start getting into communicating with the spirit world, a lot of people who are like that, who know me, go, it's a bit odd. But others, sometimes you'll lose people in your life. They'll pull back, they'll step back, and others will come forward. It's hard for family and very close friends who are not supportive, or especially anyone who really doesn't like you doing it and wants to stop you doing it. That is the biggest challenge to deal with. Luckily, I never had that personally. Some of my family weren't keen on it, but then never really tried to stop me doing it. So that's important to recognize. So, you know, chances are, and the other thing is coming out of the closet with your mediumship. You know, should you tell everybody about it, or should you keep it a secret? At what point do you let it out? And there's no hard and fast rules with that. You've just got to go with what feels right to you. And for me, I worked for a US engineering company that was quite conservative with a small c. And I kind of wondered, what would they think if they knew what I did, and would it impact my career, my job? But over time, I was becoming less interested in that business and that work, and wanted to work more spiritually. I wanted to work more with people, doing therapy. So I was kind of moving away from it anyway. So I decided just to tell everybody, and whatever happens, happens. And actually, it made life easy. I kind of put my life into 3 boxes. I had my spiritual friends, my spiritual work, my spiritual development. I had my normal friends, my normal socializing people who didn't really know what I did. And then I had my work people who, again, didn't know about the spiritual side of things and the mediumship part. And over time, it got increasingly hard to try and keep all these boxes separate. Over time, it became increasingly difficult to manage it all. And in the end, I decided I just got to tell everyone what I do, and it will be what it will be, and all the dust will settle, and we'll see where we are. Most of my friends, vast majority, if not all of them, were good about it. No problem at all. They know who I was. They're still a friend. No problem at all. All my spiritual friends are all still good about it. Absolutely. And some of the work people were a bit odd. I get that. Yeah, I get that. And I see that. And some very peripheral friends pulled away. But all my main friends didn't. And life became so much easier when I became honest about what I did with everybody. And I didn't have to then try and manage it all. And it was starting to mess with my head to try and manage it all. So yeah, if you can, be open, come out the closet if you can. But I do understand there's reasons why some people can't. You got to do what feels right for you. Okay, so the question, so HK Crumb, you still haven't clarified it for me. If you would like to clarify what you mean, you say, no, I still don't really know what the question means. So without clarification, I can't really answer it. So next question, I don't know your name. I can't pronounce it. It's all in a script I don't understand, but I will answer your question. Do you believe that joining the spiritual church of our neighborhood will help with our spiritual development, and how is this possible? So basically, some people have spiritual churches local to them in their countries, in their locale, and some don't. Is every spiritual church going to move forward your development? Probably not, no. I know, I serve a lot of spiritualist churches. I have served probably, well, if I look at both online and in person, we're probably getting up to 50 spiritualist churches I've served over time now. Some of them are wonderful. A lot of them are wonderful. And occasional ones are challenging. And I know people who tell me horror stories about other spiritualist churches that I don't serve, where they tell me that they're not friendly, that they won't let people in the circles, and that they're not spiritual in the least in those churches. Luckily, I don't serve any churches like that, thank heavens. So not all spiritualist churches contain spiritual people. Not all spiritualist churches will necessarily help you with your development. You've got to find the right teacher for you as well. Remember that. Sometimes you have to kiss a few frogs before you'll find a prince. So, but in today's world, we've moved so much with COVID. And in fact, it's one of the videos I just recorded very recently about developing online. Now there's more opportunities than ever before online to find teachings with quality teachers through the environment of Zoom, etc. YouTube classes like this even. So you don't necessarily need to be in person in a locale. Sadly, I think this will make it harder for spiritualist churches in the long term though, because there's now so much competition, if you will. The Arthur Findlay College has gone online. Journey Within has got so many online courses. So many good quality teachings are online that now you can get a very high standard of teaching wherever you are in the world if there's nothing locally. So if there is no spiritualist church or spiritual church locally, go online and look for one. Or just go online and look for spiritual development. So, spiritual development does not always have to take place within a spiritualist church. That's important to recognize. For anyone who is interested in spiritual development, spiritual self-development, I do have a course on that. 4 classes, course which goes into it in quite a bit of detail. And for me, spiritual development is all about making the spiritual aspect of self, the soul, a greater part of our daily lives. That's what it's all about. It's about bringing the spiritual qualities from within into our lives in a much greater way. One of the questions earlier asked about how much I get involved with my guides in my life. The answer is not really that much, to be honest. Unless I'm doing spirit work, I'm not really doing that. Or unless I'm sitting for my own development, I'm not doing that. But, and this is where I say the big but is, but I want my own soul to be a part of my life every day. I want those spiritual qualities of that spirit part of self to be unfolding and coming into play every day. When someone cuts me up, I want to revert back to that part of me that says this is no big deal. you know, respond from a place of love, respond, take the high road. That's more important. Spiritual self-development is more important than you having dialogue and communication with your guides all day. It's more important than you checking in with the spirit world all day. Your spirit here and now, unfold the potentials from within. So I always teach that spiritual self-development in the long run will make the biggest difference to your mediumship. I can teach anybody to do the mechanics of mediumship to a degree, but I can't teach you to be spiritual. You can only unfold those spiritual qualities yourself in your own time from within. It's an inside job. No one can make you spiritual. No course can make you spiritual. No teacher can make you spiritual. Only the soul can unfold them from within. And it takes work and effort. Absolutely. Okay, next. So I can see the question, is there a specific spiritual church that you would recommend in London? It's hard. It depends on the area of London. You know, the one of the most famous in the centre of London is the London Spiritual Mission. There's the SAGB, which is not a church as such, but has top quality teachings. It depends where you are. If you're in southwest London or can get to southwest London, my own local church of Hampton Hill Spiritualist Church, we always say is one of the nicest, but we're biased because I've been there, going there for 20 years and I love it. And you can often see me work there. So that's another reason to go there. But yeah, it's hard to recommend churches because if I recommend one over another, it puts people's noses out of joint and we don't want to upset anybody. I would say go along, check them out, see if you like them, see if you enjoy them, and if they're a good fit for you. Absolutely. Okay, next question. Jonathan. At times my mediumship is so strong I can feel energy and deeply connect, and at others I feel like I'm struggling to get anything at all. I mainly work with clairvoyance. Can I help? Can I wave a magic wand and solve it all for you? No, welcome to mediumship. This is how mediumship works. Sometimes you're fabulous and sometimes it feels like it doesn't work at all. Sometimes you're having a great day, a flyer, and sometimes it's like pulling teeth. And no matter what stage you get to with your development, we still work on a range between us on a great day and us when we feel like it isn't working brilliantly. But what we want is to move that along up the path so that even my worst day is still a good day. Even my worst demonstration is still a good demonstration. My worst sitting is still a pretty good sitting. That's what we want. So that's natural within mediumship. How do you get beyond that? Basically, you have to develop. You have to unfold. You have to do classes, circles, courses, workshops to help develop. And it's the quality of the courses, classes, circles, workshop that matters as well. It's not just working. You can't just keep doing exchange sittings with people and expect to be brilliant. We need to be targeting, working with different aspects. And without watching you work and seeing where the development is needed, people often say, my mediumship doesn't work. Can you tell me how to fix it? And the answer is no. I would have to watch you work a few times to see what's happening, to see what your connection's like, to see how you give the information, and only then can I, if you like, make a diagnosis. It's like asking a doctor to saying, I don't feel very well, and asking the doctor to tell you what's wrong. Normally they've got to ask you a few questions, do a few tests, see what's happening. It's the same with mediums trying to diagnose problems. Yeah, there's certain problems that generally you encounter regularly. Beginner mediums, got no power, it fizzles out, absolutely. You know, if you've not developed the clairsentience, if you're just doing clairvoyance, no clairsentience, it makes it hard, absolutely. Because you can't sense and feel into the pictures and you can't always get what's accurate. But we have to develop and unfold, sitting in the power to create the conditions required for your unfoldment, absolutely. And just doing the practice. That's the best advice I can give anybody. And being committed to your development, turning up, being consistent, showing up, making it happen. That's what I recommend. So, but also we have to find out for ourselves what's going on with our own work. So if it's not flowing, analyze it. See if you can figure out what's gone wrong. You know, for a long time, I used to analyze my work. I used to try and work out what had happened, figure it out for myself. And it can help you, but it's not easy. Absolutely. Absolutely. And remember that different links, you connect strongly with a good communicator, information flows. You've got a flaky link that's not working very well, it's not a very good connection, it's not going to flow. If you've got a good communicator from the spirit world who's communicated, been through mediums multiple times, it's going to flow easily. Someone for their very first time who's unsure how it works, it's not going to flow as well. Someone who's just not good at talking or communicating, it's not going to work as well. You've got all of that in the mix. There's so many aspects within the mix. The course I recommend for that one is Getting Better Evidence. That course goes through so many different aspects of that. That would be the course I would recommend. With my courses, I highly recommend Meditation and Sitting for Spirit as course number 1, then Fundamentals of Mediumship for course number 2, and Getting Better Evidence as course number 3. And then you can move on to readings and platform work. If you've got confidence issues, the confidence one. And if you want to become more spiritual and develop the spiritual side of self, which will take your mediumship to the next level, spiritual self-development. That quick advert over. Okay, Tyrone. With clairvoyance, is it normal to see the same symbols in both mediumship readings and psychic readings? Absolutely. All a symbol is a mechanism for communication of information. So symbol, encode. So take information, encode it into a symbol and decode it back into information. That's all a symbol is. So that information can work equally well psychically or mediumistically. Some symbols are specific to mediumship or specific to someone who's passed, but generally symbols, in my experience, are universal. But you need to set up your symbol library with spirit. That's something you can do in your own time with your own self-development, absolutely. And you need to work with symbols for yourself. But if your mediumship is all symbols, that's not good if you can't interpret it. But yeah, what you're saying is pretty normal. I can get the same symbols for both psychic and mediumistic. Just understand that it's a meaning, not anything else. Andrea, what would you advise for a medium who's going through personal challenges? Do they carry on doing readings or wait until it's passed? Only you can decide, depending upon the challenge, depending upon how the challenge affects you emotionally, how the challenge affects you mentally. We can, if it's not a great, if it's totally traumatic, if your dad's just passed or your partner, wife, husband just passed, yeah, don't. Give yourself that space. If it's nothing as traumatic as that and you feel you can work with it, work with it, see how you get on. If it's not working well, give yourself leeway. If you feel you need time away, take time away. But only you can really decide. There's no hard and fast rule on that, basically. So I hope that makes sense. But generally, there will be some occasions when it is wise to take a step back. But other times, I know mediums who've lost very close loved ones if they are professional mediums, they may stop offering readings for a month or two until they feel they're ready to come back to it. So, but each person is different and you've got to choose for yourself what feels right. Rebecca, I've compared the info on their websites, but in your opinion, what's the difference between the SNU and the SAGB? And do all working mediums serving churches in the UK have to be affiliated to one of them? No. To answer the last question, you don't have to have any affiliations whatsoever. So the choice is yours. So the SNU is an organisation for spiritualists. It's an umbrella organisation, the Spiritualist National Union, for spiritualism. So therefore, the SNU, it has about, in the UK, it has about, I think it's 300, 400 churches under the umbrella. And so because of that, it runs education courses, it has a ministership where we have ministers and officiants who do services, funerals, weddings, namings, etc. Our church that I belong to is part of the SNU. It has healers within it. So basically, it's an umbrella organisation for spiritualists. Whereas the SAGB is effectively a centre. It's like an extra large church. It's a centre which was primarily for training and also for demonstrations of mediumship and sittings. So it's if you like, it's like a big church, but it's not a church. It's a centre. It is an associate. It used to be the Marylebone Spiritualists Association, and then became the Spiritualist Association of Great Britain. But as far as I'm aware, they don't have mediums affiliated to them. The SNU runs training programs where you can get your mediumship assessed and checked out, and I hold a certificate of the Spiritualist National Union in demonstrating and speaking, where I've had to work. I've had my mediumship anonymously assessed, my speaking anonymously assessed, and I had to work in front of boards, and only when you achieve all the required standards do they say this person is of a standard to have the certificate. Whereas I don't believe the SAGB has anything like that. So you don't really have mediums who are affiliated to the SAGB as such. SAGB is based in central London. So again, if you're not in London, it's unlikely you're going to do a great deal with them unless you do one of their online courses. So hopefully that answers your question. Is there a class with myself that I can recommend for clairsentience? Not particularly, no. As I said, probably the best course I would recommend to understand all of the clairs is the Getting Better Evidence course. Because all the clairs have to function together. But most people, the way you work with clairs is by isolating them or rotating them in circles and classes. But I go into that in a lot more detail in Getting Better Evidence. I touch upon it a little bit as well in Fundamentals of Mediumship. But Getting Better Evidence, that is the course where you'll get the greatest information on theoretical information on doing it. But other than that, you've just got to learn to work with it, really. Let me bring it back to seeing me again. You don't want that on screen all the time, do you? No. Okay, Tyrone. Thankfully, I'm aware what a lot of symbols mean to me. Often I'll get a symbol, then hear a name. I'll just know it's a brother, etc. Thank you for the live. Look forward to the next one. Yeah. We've got to, sometimes we'll get a symbol that we don't know the meaning. We can ask to receive to understand the meaning. Or you can try and set up meanings yourself. That's the easiest thing to do, is if you think of a symbol, think of its meaning, and communicate that to your guides and helpers, communicate the spirit world, and they can work with it. That's what I recommend, personally. Some people don't like... In the early days, I didn't like symbols. I found it just got in the way. I would just rather have it the way it was. Don't give me a complicated symbol that I can't interpret, that it's going to get ever so hard. It's not going to work. If they're showing a white flag, they're surrendering. If they're given an olive branch, they're bringing peace. If they're showing a red rag, they got angry. If they show us a donkey, they might have been as stubborn as a mule, however. But I kind of need to know what it means. If I can't figure out what it means, it's no good to me, no good to the sitter, no good to anybody. So originally I asked Spirit just to give it me accurately without symbology at all. And then over time, symbols came in because I learned it was a shortcut that would speed up how much information we can get across. And that's what symbols are. They should be that shortcut to speed your mediumship up. If you're finding they're not speeding your mediumship up, send the thoughts to the spirit world to back off them until we can figure out what they all mean. That can be useful as well. So I believe we've come to the end of this list of questions. If you've got any more questions you want to ask me, you need to throw them in the chat box as soon as you can. So just remember as well that the updates on my channel this month that you may not have seen since the last live stream is I've uploaded a sit in the power meditation short version that I highly recommend. It's quite powerful. I actually do it myself occasionally and enjoy it, because the long version does take time. The short version, you can do it in 15 minutes and it's powerful. So check it out. I highly recommend it. Share it with your friends. Useful. How to manage emotions in mediumship is another new video that I added that is very beneficial as well. I highly recommend that one. And then there's also two talks that I've uploaded, one on the purpose of mediumship, one on change, and they're both worth checking out as well. So remember as well, I do have a Facebook group called Mediumship Teachings with Martin Twycross. If you want to stay in touch with what I'm doing, that's a good place to go. Sign up for the group, check it out. Also, if you're enjoying this, do hit the like button. I should say this all the way through the thing. If you're getting value, hit the like button. If you enjoy it, hit the like button and leave me comments. On all my videos across the channel, the more likes and comments people interact with them, the more the algorithm of YouTube promotes them. So give me a like, it really helps. But with all my videos that you watch, if you enjoy them, get benefit, give them a like, leave me a comment. It really helps and I do appreciate it. So we have another question. What constitutes a good circle? What format should it take and what type of exercises? I've been attending one for a few weeks but have no experience of others to compare it to. And that is just a huge question, Rebecca. I can't really answer that question for you, to be honest. That's probably 3 or 4 short videos for the channel, to be honest, because a good circle generally, circles need to be pitched at the levels of the people in it. If someone's trying to cater for everybody from absolute beginners to total advanced, that circle is going to be an odd circle because the variety of people in the room is too mixed. Normally want to try and keep circles targeted to certain groups: a beginner circle, an intermediate circle, a more advanced circle class. That's what you would like. What should happen in them? It depends on the circle. It depends upon the goal. All circles should have an aim and a goal. Awareness circles within the UK, we teach awareness circles. Awareness circles are opportunities for people to learn how to work psychically, to have fun, to enjoy themselves, unfolding and developing their psychic senses, unfolding and developing their intuition, unfolding and working with their psychic potentials. It's not about mediumship generally, it's about psychic exercises. We do guided meditations where you get to experience loads of different things. It helps satisfy people's curiosity and a desire to explore. When you first come to this, we want to explore it. So the awareness circle is an exploration circle. Then we move into what we call the development circle, which focuses upon developing mediumship. And it shouldn't have any of those psychic exercises generally. It should be more about focused upon mediumistic exercises, and you probably introduce sitting the power in there as well, but I wouldn't recommend doing it every week or every month, however often the circle is. Generally, I would be in a development circle, I would be giving people exercises to push them. It'd be intermediates, and I'd be trying to give everybody something to help them move forward with where they're at. Whereas an advanced circle would be exactly that, more advanced students, and really there you're looking to work them hard and push them hard. I'm not very good at awareness circles, beginner circles, because I like people to work hard, and people come out worn out and they say, no, that was too hard for me. I like the fun. So my wife took over my beginner circle because she's just nice with people and kind with people. And I'm just a hard taskmaster who whips everybody and makes them do loads of exercises and makes them all work really hard and tire them out and they don't enjoy it. So it's hard. And every teacher has their own format and style. People often teach the way they were taught. And a lot of circles are just try to be everything to all men, and it doesn't really work. That's why progressive courses are highly valuable, because you get to go with a tutor who can watch over a number of sessions, say 10 or 12 sessions, and they can see where you're working well and where you're not and help move you forward. Now, if I'm brutally honest, I shouldn't say this, but I will. I don't generally like working with beginners because there's so many people out there who can hold your hand through the early stages of development. My talent lies with the intermediate to advanced to help push people. I'm not patient enough for answering the same question 1,000 times from beginners. Hence, I do my YouTube videos to answer those questions for you. If it's a simple question, people send me questions so often, and the most common ones I'll just make a video on it and say, go to that video. There it is. That's it. That's the best of my knowledge. So I don't teach beginners personally. I don't do that psychic unfoldment part of it. I used to for many years. I know how to do it and do it well, but my time is better spent working with people at the next level. And I love teaching the theory. I get passionate about giving people the fundamentals, the theory, the cornerstones, the foundations of mediumship, because it's so absent in many circles. You go to a circle, they say, make a link. How to make a link? Just make a link. And they don't tell you. They don't go through the theory of why mediumship works and how it works. Hence, I have my videos. I have all those videos that cover all those aspects. I have my study program that really drills into the depth. I have my courses that add to those programs. And all of that is there because I find it's not taught so much, and it should be, because that's what will drive you forward in your work. So I can't really tell you what constitutes a good circle. Go along. If it resonates with you, if you feel you're getting value from it, great. If you go to a circle and what is being said is crazy and it does not resonate with you, and you're questioning the logic behind it, it may not be right for you. I've heard of horror stories of people going to circles where it all has to be done in total pitch black darkness. And I'll say, what, are you developing physical mediumship then? Oh no, it's just a normal circle. Normal circles are run with the lights on. You never do them in total darkness. If people are telling you to, I know other circles, People tell me they're not allowed to work with clairsentience. They're only allowed to work with clairvoyance or clairaudience. Well, most people don't have clairaudience. How on earth are you going to do that? Clairsentience is the fundamental foundation of all mediumship. It's, if you like, it's the master clair. If you're telling someone not to work with it, you're going to really mess up their mediumship big time. So if people are telling you things in circles that just don't make sense, don't fit, let them go. It doesn't help you. You know, move on to the next circle, check out, go and look for a tutor who's better. And remember that in our development, we move from point to point to point to point, and you will outgrow certain teachings. You will outgrow certain circles. Always be willing to move on to the next stage of the journey. Quite often you find yourself in a circle that there's no need to be there anymore, and it's hard to get out of sometimes, and we don't want to offend people, we don't want to upset people. But if it's not right for us, we do have to move forward. I used to be in a circle that it was a group of friends getting together to work, like facilitated practice amongst friends. And then somebody took it over. And then the first time they told somebody that I was their student, when I was a working medium, been working a lot longer than them, I was gone. The next week I refused to go because, you know, we were there as equals. No one was a tutor and teaching that circle. And as soon as someone starts telling other people that they're my teacher, whoa, no. So, you know, things happen, things change. You've got to do what's right for you. You've got to feel it from within if it's right. Sometimes people can come into a circle. It changes the energy, changes the dynamic. I was in a circle earlier on. It was a lovely circle working well. Somebody came in with a very strong energy who really interfered with the circle, and that energy just wasn't a good fit for me. It kept making me angry and annoyed, and I couldn't sit there and listen to it. I just had to withdraw and go. It wasn't working for me because the person running the circle couldn't control this person. The person running the circle should have managed them, but they didn't. So, you know, you've got to go with what's right for you, always with circles. So I'm hoping that helps. So we've come to the end of all the questions. I do hope you've got a lot of value from today's class. If you have, remember to hit the like button for me. And feel free to leave a comment when the video's up. With all my videos, remember to hit the like button and leave me a comment. It really helps the algorithm. If you really enjoyed the class and you would like to buy me a coffee, you can use my PayPal me link, which is at the top of this class on the chat box. And it's also in the video description. You'll find it in there. So again, I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you got a lot from it. And the next one, by the way, is going to be on Sunday, the 24th of October is the provisional date I've got for it. Unless anything gets in the way, that will be the date. So again, you can have a think about questions and bring them along for that one. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you got lots from it. And I shall look forward to seeing you all again in the next one. Take care, everybody. Thanks for coming.